watching Republic.
Hello and welcome. You're watching the Tuesday edition of This Is Exclusive with me, Shavinson. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we bring to you three stories, starting with the civil war in Myanmar. Ladies and gentlemen, a rebel group has now taken control of the area closer to Bangladesh. How does this really translate in the volatile situation in Bangladesh, and does it have some direct impact as far as India is concerned? That's a story that we are tracking first, and then we're also going to take you through the ground report coming in from Jammu and Kashmir. Whether at all, National Conference is actually backing infiltrators. The very fact that you have Omar Abdullah saying that he is not going to shy away from giving fundamental rights to the Rohingyas, and says that the centre perhaps should take a position as far as Rohingyas are concerned. That's the other story that we're going to get to you tonight. And finally, India's biggest drug haul coming in from Andaman. This and much more in this edition of This Is Exclusive with me, Shavinson. But let me take you through the headlines we're tracking at this hour. Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Omar Abdullah backs Rohingya infiltration, says Rohingya refugees in Jammu and Kashmir cannot be left to starve and die. One of the most powerful ethnic minority armed groups battling Myanmar's army claims the capture of the last army outpost in the strategic western town of Mongdo, gaining full control of the 271-kilometer long border with Bangladesh. AIMIM fields Delhi riots accused Tahir Hussain for elections in the national capital. RJD's Lalu Prasad Yadav backs Mamata Banerjee for Indie bloc leadership. Congress still claims that it is the party in alliance. With months to go for Delhi elections, BJP escalates attack on Kejriwal over palaces squandering. Ladies and gentlemen, starting with this story which has caught our eyes. What's really happening at the Myanmar-Bangladesh border? One of the most powerful ethnic minority armed group battling Myanmar's army has now claimed the capture of the last army outpost in the strategic western town of Mogda, gaining full control about 271-kilometer long border with Bangladesh. Now, the capture by the Arakan army essentially makes the group's control of the northern part of Rakhine state complete and marks yet another advancement in its bid for self-rule. Rakhine has now become a focal point for Myanmar's civil war, in which pro-democracy guerrillas and ethnic minority armed forces seeking autonomy battle for the country's military rulers who took power back in 2021, ousted the elected government of Aung San Suu Kyi. Now, what are the implications essentially of this capture on Bangladesh, and more so, the larger Asian picture? Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is the development that has taken place in the last few hours. The Arakan army, remember, is the ethnic armed group that has taken on the junta in Myanmar. In fact, why it has significance is, one, clearly where exactly have they really taken this entire action. It basically begins with the border area between Myanmar and Bangladesh, which runs about 241 kilometers. But here, the last army outpost, which has now been taken over, the Arakan presence, is in this place called Mongto, which is not very far again from Teknaf, which is again important for trade in Bangladesh. Ladies and gentlemen, and that is the reason why we are saying that taking over of this very place assumes greater significance. And how exactly would Bangladesh really respond to it? Because over the last few years, the movement of Rohingyas have largely taken place from this very area, which is exactly why Sheikh Hasina, when she was in power, largely spoke about the fact that Myanmar will have to take control of the situation and prevent the movement of Rohingyas from these very areas. Now the fact that this has been taken over and the current situation, particularly in this very area, becomes even more important and perhaps vulnerable. Let's just take you through the other details, images that we have also accessed. Now, this is the last border post where you have the Arakan army now claiming that they have taken full control of the last border outpost closer to Bangladesh. They've taken control of it, and this has happened in the last few hours, in the last 9 to 10 hours, where these developments have actually taken place in the border areas. And now, remember, the Bangladeshi army hasn't really responded as yet. But having said that, remember, this is one of the crucial trade point areas, and that is the reason why it becomes even more important. Now, this insurgency, which has basically reached higher, now that is the reason why, remember, the township which has now been taken over will have its regional impact. Let's just take you through some of the details with regards to this entire 241-kilometer long border which has now been taken over, and the fact that this comes at a time when Bangladesh has not been able to respond to some of the biggest challenges too. Let me also bring in our senior executive editor, Abhishek Kapoor, who's joining us on this broadcast. Abhishek, it's an important, significant development that's actually taken place, something that we have been tracking very closely. One of the direct impact that it has. We are talking about an area where in the past we have seen large-scale movement of Rohingyas, particularly what Sheikh Hasina had indicated in the past. Now with this being taken over by the Arakan army, how are we to really look at the situation right now?
Well, the situation, even in the best of times in this geography, remains very uncertain, Shawan. And so the Arakan army taking over this territory is just one aspect of it. There is the Kokizo insurgency which goes on. There is the Chin insurgency which goes on in the northeast part of Myanmar. Effectively, what we are seeing is that the control of the junta in Myanmar, howsoever tenuous, is even going down further. And the Arakan army, the Salvation Army, as they call themselves, are taking over this particular last of the outpost from where Myanmar armies still had some modicum of control, clearly suggests that they are further receding from whatever territories they controlled. It's not a good security situation insofar as India is concerned. Remember, just yesterday, our foreign secretary was in Dhaka, and one of the issues discussed was the issue of repatriation of Rohingyas, and the Arakan army is directly connected with that issue. Arakan army is essentially a Rohingya army. So I think in that sense, it's a concern for Bangladesh, it's a concern for India, and obviously it's a concern for Naypyidaw also, the manner in which increasingly we are finding all these insurgents, be it the Rohingyas in the case of Arakan army or the Kukizos or the Chin army, they are all controlling larger and larger swathes of Myanmarese territory. Having said that, I think this has to be ascertained on the ground, whether this is a temporary kind of victory made by Arakan army or something which is more enduring, and then perhaps the Myanmar army is effectively on the back foot in this geography.
A question before I let you go, Abhishek, is with regards to how exactly has India really viewed these developments. Having said that, Arakan army's fight, particularly along the 241 borderline along with Bangladesh, has been going on for several months put together. So this is something that perhaps India has also been monitoring very closely. What's the geostrategic importance as far as this area is concerned vis-a-vis India?
Well, obviously, Shawan, the fact of the matter is that this, whatever happens here, directly impacts our security situation in the northeast, and so this development perhaps is not good. India has been coordinating its steps insofar as our security situation in the northeast is concerned with the Myanmarese junta, and if they weaken, then obviously our situation also gets impacted adversely. So in that sense, I would say it's not a very good development, but obviously there would be some kind of communication going on, and hopefully we would see that our interests are at least taken care of.
Very much, Abhishek, for getting us the latest details. And in fact, this is of cause of concern at some level, given the fact that we are dealing with an extremely volatile situation right now. Ladies and gentlemen, let's also now take you through the other top story that we're getting to you tonight. This is perhaps India's biggest drug bust that we are looking at, and perhaps there is a China link to it, China's sinister plot, as we are calling it. Details of India's biggest drug bust that we're going to take you through right now, ladies and gentlemen. This after the Indian Coast Guard and others who were basically involved in the operation that was carried out, resulting in the biggest drug haul that has been made by India. Let me just quickly take you through the details of this. This has happened in Andaman. In fact, what has happened is that along with the detention that has taken place, there has been advanced technology that has also been used. Starlink of Elon Musk's Starlink satellite dish were basically recovered from this, suggestive of cartels' transnational reach is what we believe from the investigation that has been carried out. Let's just quickly take you through the other details emerging at this point in time. Seamless internet in remote locations being the other concern right now, particularly with the Starlink satellite dish that has been recovered. Let's just quickly move a little bit, please. What we have right now is incriminating GPS coordinates, Tachilik, the fulcrum of the meth trade. Now that's the meth that has basically been recovered. Let's just quickly once again take you through the details. Myanmar-Thailand border where this has been intercepted. Various parts of Indonesia also part of the coordinates. So does it actually show the movement? 222 bags that have been seized. This is of meth that has been seized by the Indian agencies. 6,000 kilogram of meth that has been seized now, which happens to be the biggest ever drug haul that has been made by India. Now that's the latest coming in. 6 Myanmari nationals have also been taken into custody. Let's take you through the details first. Let's just put out the details in terms of what has been recorded so far and what does this essentially indicate. Let me also introduce the DGP, Mr. Ajay Dhaliwal, who's joining us on this broadcast. Mr. Dhaliwal, thank you very much for joining us on this broadcast. Now this appears to be the biggest drug haul that has taken place in our country. Preliminary investigation perhaps may have already been done. I want to understand from you, what are the larger repercussions of it?
At the moment, the investigation is under process. And what we can share till now is that the narco traffickers, they were, into this trade for some time. The way they quickly managed to buy a boat and get the documents and sail and have a record quantity of methamphetamine, and they were using, as you already have spoken, Starlink and in fact satellite telephony also. So that shows that it was a very, very organized operation, and they had been using these international waters for peddling drugs from Myanmar to Southeast Asia predominantly.
With regards to the investigation that has been carried out, there have been detentions that have taken place. Is there a larger picture in terms of an international drug racket that you're really looking at? Prima facie, what is it that you've been able to understand?
Of course, it's an international racket. The drugs are being transported from one country to another countries. And as you also have mentioned, and we have also shared that the GPS coordinates did show Sumatra, Indonesia as one of the coordinates. And there were a couple of locations which were flagged in our jurisdiction also. So though the interrogation, it has emerged that the main consignment was meant for Southeast Asian countries in that region, primarily Thailand and Indonesia. But we are not excluding any other possibilities at this stage of investigation, and we are looking at all dimensions of it.
Mr. Dhaliwal, with regards to the involvement of any particular group, is there any understanding or is there any pattern that has basically emerged which basically indicates towards the involvement of any narco-terror group? Can we say that?
Terror dimension at the moment is not, we cannot say that it has emerged. But as I told you that we have only got the custody for a part-time for the entire police custody remand, which is possible. So we shall be again seeking their police custody remand at somewhere down the line when we need it. And there have been other agencies also which have been working with us, participating in the joint interrogations. And let us see what finally emerges out of it.
Question before I let you go, Mr. Dhaliwal, is with regards to what could be the cause of concern right now, given the fact that we are looking at one of the biggest drug haul, and that too in the Indian water. How do you really look at it, and what is the cause of concern right now for the agencies?
I think it's a twin-dimensional concern. One is this use of this route to transport the drugs. There have been a lot of seizures in Arabian Sea by Narcotics Control Bureau, Gujarat Police, and even Special Cell of Delhi Police, etc., and Indian Coast Guards. While in the eastern parts of our nation, into the territorial waters, we haven't had too many big seizures in the last 5 years. The last big seizure was in September 19 and then in December 19, when again the meth was seized. Now, the most important thing is that even during that time, the packaging was same. It was same labeled and packed as green tea bags. And there is, very marked similarity. 5 years down the line, the kind of packing, the kind of boats used, the kind of routes taken. So it just shows, 5 years is the span which we are looking at it. So how many, times something may have gone through, and the real, dimension of it. And another thing is that meth has been replacing a lot of other drugs. It is becoming drug of choice. It is much more cheaper. Right. It has much more, I would say, the same kind of the hallucinatory or toxic, intoxicating value for the consumer, perhaps as other drugs being consumed. And this combined with fentanyl, etc., which is yet to be, of course, seen in our territory. This is a very, very potent thing. This could be something which would really be damaging a lot of youngsters or any consumers who get addicted to this. So this has to be watched very carefully.
Right. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Dhaliwal, for joining us on this broadcast and putting this into perspective, as this turns out to be one of the biggest drug haul that we are really looking at, but the larger cause of concern about the transnational operation that's being carried out. Thank you very much. Well, shifting focus now to the other story that we're getting to tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, this is with regards to the government's position on Rohingyas. Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Omar Abdullah has now made a statement with regards to the settlement of Rohingyas in Jammu. In fact, a decision has now been taken by Omar Abdullah's government that water supply as well as electricity would continue in the camps where Rohingyas have been settled. Question here is that whether at all the National Conference has taken an official position as far as Rohingyas are concerned, and they're fully backing the presence of Rohingyas in Indian soil. Chief Minister says that it is for the centre to really answer as to whether at all they can continue providing security as well as place for the Rohingyas in Jammu and Kashmir. Take a look at this detailed report.
Amid clampdown on Rohingya families, fresh locations have been identified where Rohingya families are living illegally. In the Samba district, 130 Rohingya families are reportedly living without valid documents.
We are in the Narwal Bala area, which is one of the biggest establishment where the Rohingyas reside, roughly 60 to 70 families. Now they have been allowed to take the water from the nearby area. That is, their temporary connections have been restored. This has been done soon after the decision that was taken by the administration. It's very important because we have seen that both the LG administration and the Umar government, they have been on the opposite directions when it comes to this decision. The decision that the water supplies and the electricity supply will be cut off. But now, after the order that has come from the Jal Shakti ministry to the officials, now these Rohingyas are able to get the water, though they are somewhat now reluctant to speak on the cameras because they are afraid that this might annoy some of the officers who have restored these connections.
Earlier, Republic spoke to SP Ajay Sharma on electricity and water being supplied to illegal Rohingya immigrants.
रोहिंग्यास में जो 3 उनके लैंडलॉर्ड्स हैं जिन्होंने उनको स्पेस वहाँ पे दी ठहरने के लिए विदाउट एनी प्रॉपर वेरिफिकेशन हु दे आर फ्रॉम वेयर दे हैव कम आर दे एक्चुअली द रिफ्यूजीज आर अदरवाइज दैट वी डोंट नो एंड द सिमिलर काइंड ऑफ एक्शन हैज़ बीन टेकन बाय द सिविल एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन ऑल्सो as far as the electric connection is concerned and water connection is concerned. तो ये कलेक्टिव एक एफर्ट है साउथ जोन पुलिस की, जम्मू पुलिस की, जिसके तहत जैसे मैंने आपको कहा कि पिछले 2 दिन के अंदर हमने 18 FIRs लॉन्च की.
Meanwhile, Omar and his aides have openly backed illegal Rohingya infiltration.
उनको लेके एक ह्यूमैनिटेरियन इशू है. मरकजी हुकूमत ये तय करे कि उनके लिए करना क्या है. गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया ये बताए कि इनके साथ करना क्या है. जब तक वो यहाँ पे हैं तब तक तो उनका थोड़ा बहुत तो देखभाल आपको करना होगा. हमने उनको यहाँ लाके बसाया नहीं, उनको लाया गया, यहाँ बसाया गया, लेकिन जब तक यहाँ पे हैं उनको जानवरों के साथ उनका सलूक तो नहीं किया जा सकता ना.
वो गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया ने यहाँ पे रेफ्यूजीज भेजे हैं, हमने नहीं लाया, उन्होंने यहाँ बसाया है और हमारा फर्ज है जब तक वो यहाँ हमारे पास हैं, रेफ्यूजीज हैं, उनको पानी और बिजली देनी चाहिए.
रोहिंग्याज का एक इशू है गवर्नमेंट के सामने और गवर्नमेंट इस पे एक अनह्यूमैनिटेरियन ग्राउंड सोच रही है. जहाँ तक पानी का ताल्लुक है, पानी तो अनह्यूमैनिटेरियन ग्राउंड हम किसी का काट नहीं सकते. हर आदमी को हमने पानी देना है. हमने तो इंसानों, हिमानू, दरिंदू, परिंदू, चरिंदू सबको पानी देने की कोशिश करना है.
As national conference leaders openly back Rohingyas' presence in the valley, the question remains, when will some opposition parties finally stop towing the line on national security and sovereignty?
Well, this has led to a massive political face-off in Jammu and Kashmir. Joining me on this broadcast is my colleague Gursimran. Gursimran, there is a major pressure that has been put on the Jammu and Kashmir government perhaps to rethink this decision onto supplying water as well as electricity to these very camps where Rohingyas are settled. What more details are you picking up? Is there any sort of rethink within the government at this point in time?
See, though the elected government, the chief minister and the ministers have said that they want and they have ordered the restoration of the water and the electricity supply, but what we are picking up from the sources that now a similar fashion crackdown that was done in the Jammu is being planned in the Samba district. 130 families of the Rohingyas that have been living in the Teli Basti and the nearby areas in the Badi Brahmana area of Samba district have been identified by the Deputy Commissioner of Samba. So now there is a similar crackdown expected. So the LG administration is in no mood to bow down to what the Omar Abdullah and the ministers are saying. They are of the view that they will continue with the crackdown that has been planned earlier, that the illegal Rohingyas will not be given any of the facility that they have been fetching illegally for years, Shawan.
Gursimran, we're getting in some more breaking news right now that you've sent. This is with regards to a meeting that has taken place between the UNHCR and representatives of the Rohingya groups in Jammu and Kashmir. When did the meeting actually take place and what was on the agenda?
The agenda is yet to be cleared because we are told that it is only a 2-member team of the UNHCR that has arrived in Jammu. This team has one member who is based in India, while the other member is a Japanese national, and they have met some of the representatives in the Kiryani Talab office of the UN that has been set up there. Now more details are emerging as we speak. We are yet to get the details that what all was discussed, but we are told that the last visit of the UNHCR took place in the month of March after the Rohingyas were put to the holding center by the J&K government. So it seems that somewhat the recent controversy is discussed in this meeting, the details of which are yet awaited.
Well, thank you very much, Gursabar, for getting us the latest details. That's all that we could pack in this edition of This Is Exclusive, where we've got you 3 top stories, exclusive stories coming in all the way from Myanmar, and then, of course, the big story coming in from Jammu and Kashmir. That's all that we could pack in this edition. On the other side, my colleague Niranjan joins you.
उस दिन सनसेट देखने छज्जे पे चढ़ा, टूट गया।
हाँ, तो किसने बोला घर की दीवार पे रॉक क्लाइंबिंग करने को?
सफीना बदतमीजी।
समझ गया। मेरे पास आप दोनों की प्रॉब्लम की मेडिसिन है। इसको घर पे लगाओगे तो शादी का तो पता नहीं, पर घर पक्का नहीं टूटेगा।
रुंगटा नहीं तो घर स्ट्रॉन्ग नहीं। रुंगटा स्टील TMT बार एकदम सॉलिड।
والله نحن جينا شمتانين. والحمد لله حسنا نفوت على، يعني انا ما متوقع انه كنا اصلا نقدر نفوت على قصره، على مطرح ما كان هو، ما اصلا ما كان هون يمكن بيتخبى، بس قدرنا نفوت على مطرح ما كان بيتخبى. والحمد لله يعني واحد ما قد ما في مشاعر فرح، وقديش سوريا ان شاء الله رح يصير فيها ديمقراطيه، والحمد لله ارتحنا منه، يعني متجهه سوريا ان شاء الله نحو الاحسن.
Encourages Delhi riots accused Tahir Hussain. Owaisi welcomes riot accused Tahir with open arms. Arnab asks, why is AIMIM backing anarchist elements? Debating tonight at 8 p.m. Indie allies rally behind Mamta banner. Unprecedented Indie unity for Rahul's ouster. Has Congress failed in role as leader of opposition, debating tonight at 8:30 p.m.
From Asia's largest news headquarters, setting the agenda for Bharat. You're watching Republic.
Thank you for joining us here on Republic TV. We're building up to Super Prime Time Max. Here are the headlines this evening. For the elections to Delhi. Lalu Prasad now backing Mamata Banerjee for the Indie bloc leadership. Congress still trying to kick and scream, saying they're the largest. The Congress is finding itself increasingly cornered as far as the Sonia Soros link is concerned. For the second day now this week, the parliament is deadlocked because the BJP decided to bring the Sonia Soros alleged link to parliament. Because coincidentally, not 1, 2 or 3, there are at least 10 instances where George Soros, directly or indirectly through his organizations, has spoken the same language as the Congress, has connected with the Congress, has met with the Congress, or has had his people meet with the Congress. So, as the Sonia Soros storm hits Parliament, questions were raised, and here's what Kharge said or did in Parliament, which has put his own party in a spot. Take a look.